And I welcome everyone to this next talk in the series. Today we are going to look at some of the leadership lessons, none other than from Lord Vishnu. So let's get started. So what is leadership? There is no single definition of leadership. There are several ways one can define leadership. In a nutshell, I'll just give 2 or 3 definitions that are prevalent. A leader is one who knows the way. He has the vision. He knows where we want to go. He goes the way. Means he actually travels that path, just does not show the way, but he shows the way to other people. So inspires also other people in the team, his colleagues, his fellows, his followers. And that is the definition of a leader. And whenever I say he, you should mean it is a gender neutral term, so he or she. Leadership is the act of motivating others towards a common goal. So for the leadership, there are 2 concepts which are important. One, there must be a common goal and the motivation of the team. So one needs to take the team along to reach that common goal. Leaders help the team and organization make progress. It could be organization, it could be society, it could be country, it could be anything. It could be even at home, even in in groups, small groups. There can be people who can have these kind of leadership qualities, who act in the right way, and they can make progress for that group of individuals. And ultimately, leadership is all about action, because it's ultimately the action behind the desire that drives the respect and the trust which is needed to be effective. So it's not just important to set goals, it's not just important to motivate people, but it's important to act. And that is one of the main attributes of a leader. So we know several world leaders, especially when we talk about leadership. It means politics, environment, it means several different fields, but generally, spiritual is another field where there can be leaders, and these are some of the world leaders who have been respected in their field, that they have contributed a lot during their lifetimes. There are several others, I don't have all the people, but just in a nutshell to tell you that leadership, how leadership quality is important, what is strong leadership, and how we can understand this from Lord Vishnu. In the past decade, this was a leader who was the CEO of General Electric for many, many years. He passed away recently, Jack Welch. He has also written many books, his autobiography, and he coined this term, the growth mindset, where we have a mindset where we feel that there are ample opportunities for everyone. And with this mindset, if we work, then we can think that there are several ways we can improve. There could be that we have some limitations, but we can improve, and we can take others along this path of improvement. Good business leaders create a vision. He says they articulate the vision clearly, they passionately own that vision, and they relentlessly drive this vision to its completion, to its eventual goal. So that is what Jack Welch felt, that leadership quality involves first creating that grand vision on the canvas, and then how you can communicate well with your team, this vision, and then you have to own it up. There is nobody else who is going to inspire you. You have to be a source of inspiration for your own self, and you have to be a source of inspiration for everyone in your team. And then you have to drive, you have to get into the action mode and try to achieve and complete those goals that you have set. The one large goal could, as we discussed previously, could be, distributed into several small goals which we can accomplish. In today's world, it is very important that leaders should be emotionally intelligent. And this word, the emotional quotient, EQ, is currently being talked about more than the intelligence quotient or the IQ. And currently it is known, it has even been proved by research, that emotionally intelligent people or people who have a higher emotional quotient are much more successful in life than people who are just intelligent. And what is emotional intelligence? So the first and the foremost attribute of emotional intelligence is to manage our emotions effectively. What does it mean? It means that we should control our emotions, which prevents negative emotions from influencing our decision-making skills. And this is true for a leader. Thus, the leader is less likely to make hasty decisions. So he should have a good control over his, emotional well-being. He should have, he shouldn't get carried away by the heat of the situation and try and make hasty decisions. And then he has to repent, then he has to change, and then it creates a much more disturbances in the respect of the individual or the colleagues or the employees or the people who are followers towards the leader. So that kind of emotional maturity, that kind of emotional stability, so that we can control, we can manage our emotions with a very strong head and heart. So that's the approach of having the head over the heart, means that we should be in control of our emotions. At the same time, leaders have to understand the emotions of his team members, his followers, and must care about the feeling of others. If that quality of compassion or care is missing, then also you can't make very effective team leadership. The other attribute is to have a better social awareness of different people who are coming from different backgrounds, and try to understand that everybody operates from a very different paradigm. Perceptions of everyone is different, and that makes everything that we see relative. That is what is our perception. At the same time, we must try and see the perception of the other person or the opposite party. At the same time, we should also look from our different perspective the same thing with a different perspective. So if we can develop this awareness about our environment, then it will definitely help the leader. The third attribute of emotional intelligence is seamless communications, and this cannot be overemphasized in today's world, where communication is so vital with each employee of the organization, with each person in the country, wherever the leader is. The seamless communication, dynamic communication, it may not be just, it could be verbal, it could be written. There are several ways of communication. It could be using mass media, it could be using social media, it could be any way, but the leader must be connected to people. Only then he can be effective, because that's how he will get the kind of respect, the kind of bonding, the kind of integrity with his team. And conflict resolution. So conflict resolution also requires a lot of emotional intelligence. In today's world, most of the leadership qualities, is to resolve a conflict, and conflicts are part and parcel of each and every organization, each and every workplace, each and every country. So for a leader to develop a kind of a win-win situation when he is negotiating in a conflict, or to develop a third alternative which could be better than the first alternative that somebody else is thinking, and the second alternative that is a common prevalent option. If the leader can develop or look beyond this regular thinking, can think out of the box, can think of the third alternative, then this leadership is much more effective and more dynamic. So let's come to the point and see what Lord Vishnu can show us the way, what Lord Vishnu teaches us. From his teachings only we can imbibe some of the qualities of being a good leadership, because today I think the world is facing a big crisis of leadership. Even today, if you see at the world leaders, I think they are more self-centered, especially then they look more at their own benefits rather than the benefits of the people at large. I'm talking in general, I'm not talking in particular, but generally countries are looking at their own self-interest. Leaders are also looking at their own interest, and that's creating a lot of trust deficit between the leaders and the followers. And that's one of the reasons for developing so much of unrest and conflict in the world today. And if we look at our own country, the best leaders that we produced in our country where during the time of independence struggle, just before that, we had some of the best leaders who had a lot of integrity, honesty. They wanted to do something for the country. They wanted to give their life for the country. But after the independence, the quality of leadership has significantly deteriorated over the years. An ideal leader could be somebody who has a lot of integrity, who is humble, who is down to earth, who is a team person, who can work, inspire the team. He can motivate people to reach a common goal. He's compassionate. He has a good social awareness. He has good emotional qualities, human qualities, and he inspires confidence in the team. At the same time, the leader must have good problem-solving skills. And this term, RCA and CAPA, is a very common term used in management today world over. RCA means root cause analysis, and CAPA means corrective action and preventive action. So whenever there is a situation as a problem, we should avoid a word problem because it creates more like a hurdle. We could better use a word like an issue. Suppose there is an issue which is on hand, which needs to be handled. Then for a leader, it's important that he should go into the root cause of the problem, root cause analysis. And that's one of the ways. There are several ways to do this. One of the ways is to ask 3 questions, 3 why approach. So you can ask why this problem happened, and then somebody will answer, okay, this was why somebody behaved like this, that's why there was a conflict. Then you say, why did somebody behave like this? What was the underlying reason? So if you go deep into a problem, if you ask questions, why, at least 3 times, then you can most likely, in most situations, you will go to the root cause of the problem. And for getting to the root cause, a leader has to spend some time, has to use his energies, has to use his intellect to go to the root cause of the problem. And this, in a medical organization, it has to be done in a very, very scientific way. So this kind of approach, a scientific approach and a root cause analytic approach, will definitely help the leader to tackle the problem at its root. The next situation is called the corrective action and the preventive action. So corrective action means that you give a solution right there at the situation, because that is the time when you have to diffuse the crisis, you have to solve the problem, and you have to take care of the issue. So when there is a conflict or there is an issue which has happened between the client and the vendor, or the client and the employee, then the leader has to go in and resolve this issue and has to take a corrective action in that given situation out of his wisdom, his understanding. And then the next step is called PA, or the preventive action. So he has to make sure that these kind of issues or problems don't happen again in the future. And for this, he needs to take preventive action. That could be adequate training, creating some adequate policy in the organization so that everybody follows that policy. It could be good communication. It could be developing a precedent so that you don't develop this problem again. There could be several ways the leader can make sure that these kind of problems don't happen again in the future. So these kind of skills are very important. And a leader should be focused on the solutions, not on the problems. There are different types of people. There are some people who are just focused on problems, and they get worried, they get afraid, they get fearful. Sometimes they get paranoid about the issues because of the problems. But there are people who look and who are focused on solutions. These are the people who are not so much afraid. They take all the due necessary precautions, the care to avoid a problem. They would do everything. But in case the problem happens, then they would make sure that this is corrected, this is treated. So these are the people who are focused onto solutions. And these are the people who are more effective in an organization. So a leader should always look at the problems, analyze the problems, do root cause analysis, but then the focus must be on the solution, number 1, and why this problem happened, number 2. The focus must not be on the person with whom this problem has happened. So it is very easy to blame the person, but an effective leader is somebody who does not blame the person, but blames the situation, blames the reasons why the problem happened, tries to look at the circumstances why this problem happened, rather than immediately jumping to blaming the individual with whom the issue happened. So that's why this kind of an attitude is very, very vital for any leader when he comes to problem solving or conflict resolution. So let's come to Lord Vishnu, whom I would say he is probably the CEO of the universe, and he is the leader of all the leaders. He sleeps pretty well, relaxed on the on his serpent bed in the ocean in Vaikuntha. And from his navel you can see Brahmaji is created, who creates this universe, but still he is at peace with himself. So this is the kind of leadership, and we will recite this stotra, we will pray to him, we'll bow down to Lord Vishnu, and then we will look at each and every word of this stotra and see how we can learn leadership values or skills from this stotra. So let's chant this first and bow ourselves to Lord Vishnu. Shantakaram Bhujagashayanam Padmanabham Suresham Vishwadharam Gagana Sadrisham Meghavarnam Shubhangam Lakshmi Kantam Kamalanayanam Yogi Pirthyan Gamyam Vande Vishnu Bhavabhayaharam Sarvalokaikanaatham. So we'll go to each and every word of this stotra and see some leadership skills. The first is Shantakaram. So Shantakaram means Shanta Akara. So essentially it means that Lord Vishnu has such a calm, relaxed or serene appearance. He's lying so calm, he's always calm. And this, in spite of him creating this universe or Brahmanda, the huge one, with so many solar systems which are there in this universe, with galaxies and so many stars, billions of stars, hundreds and thousands of solar systems, and so many planets. Every planet moving around around the sun in their own solar system at its own speed. There are so many weathers which keep changing according to its own rhythm. So there are so many systems in place. Can you believe this? That that the Earth rotates around its own axis at a speed of 1,000 miles an hour. The Earth rotates around the Sun at a speed of about 49,000 miles an hour. And the entire solar system of ours rotates around its own axis at a speed of 490,000 miles an hour. So who decides all this speed and how all this is being maintained? What is this energy that drives all these in motion? Everything is in, every being, everything on this planet, on this universe is in motion. So what is this energy? I mean, there are so many species which have been created. Our Shastras say that there are 84 lakh yoni, 84 lakh yoni. Today, the world, the science believes, the BBC has given a documentary saying that there are 87 lakh yonis or species, out of which many have not even been found. And all this work in interdependence with each other, with some kind of connectedness to each other. There is a rhythm which is being maintained in the universe. In spite of so many species, there are no major problems happening. Our own human body, if you see, there are so many organs. They all work in beautiful coordination. Each and every organ has its own function, and they work beautifully in coordination with each other. As medical students, as doctors, we know that each movement, each action just may be a simple swallowing act or an act of defecation. It is so complex. So many minute muscles are involved in beautiful coordination. So how is all this being maintained? Created first and then it is maintained. So this beautiful creation, which is wonderfully managed, must definitely be created by somebody who has been extremely intelligent, who probably has some marvelous kind of intelligence. But at the same time, even after having so much of intelligence and created with this complex universe as we see, that person is sitting or reclining calm, relaxed, and in a very, very serene appearance in his abode. So what should a leader learn from the Shantakaram? Leader should have the ability to remain calm. So that's the first and the foremost attitude of the leader. He cannot afford to become restless. He cannot afford to become, panicky in a situation. In spite of difficult times, in spite of difficult situations, a leader must have the ability to remain calm. And we, all of us, may be leaders in some of the ways that wherever we work, we may be having, we may be working in our operation theaters where we are our own, leaders of the team. We may be working in groups, in environments, in societies, in organizations, in several ways where we could be leaders. And that's why all of us, we need to learn this kind of skills, ability to remain calm. But you may say, how is it possible to remain calm in today's world? Yes, there would be some tension, definitely. Even for doing efficient work or creating our efficiency, there may be some tension, definitely. I agree with this. But this tension must be enough for our optimal performance. This tension should not be much higher or much lower than for creating an optimal output. I will give an example of a sitar, a string instrument. For any string instrument, the tar has to be in a perfect, tension. That if the tension is more than adequate, then it will not produce a beautiful sound. And if it is less than adequate, then also the sound will not be good. So to produce that beautiful sound, you have to have an adequate tension on these string instruments like guitar, sitar, or any of the other instruments. So how is this leader able to remain calm? He can only remain calm by, having a system-driven approach. If he has all the policies properly in place, if he has all the systems in place, just like Lord Vishnu has, he has all the laws, universal laws of nature, everything is in place, and he has the adequate person who manages those kind of policies, like he has proper managers who know what are the policies to be followed, and they know their system, they know what needs to be done, then only they can remain calm. So a leader has to be policy driven. He has to have the right people doing the right job. So that selection, that ability to select the right person for the right job is a very, very important part of leadership skill. And with this, he also needs to delegate responsibilities. A leader, if he tries to manage everything on his own, he does micromanagement, then this is not going to work. He must delegate adequately responsibility to the team. At the time that he's delegating the responsibility to the team, he must tell them what is the goal, that this is the goal, this is the framework, this is where we want to reach, this is the time duration when we want to reach this goal, there are some sub-goals, these are the framework, and we will keep reviewing this situation at this particular point of view or particular time. And at that point of time, then he has to leave that job to the delegated responsible person. Then he doesn't keep on doing micromanagement at each and every level. So with this kind of an approach, the leader can remain calm, and he can remain, even in a crisis, he can remain calm and he can inspire confidence. So crisis is a situation which is definitely a much difficult situation to manage. As you know, today the entire world is going through a crisis of this coronavirus, and there has been lockdown for more than 2 months, in India and around the world. And this is the kind of which a crisis, a situation which is a real test of leadership. Because these are the times when really what is the character, what is the integrity, what is the honesty of the leader is being tested. This is a time when his compassion for his fellow men, for his fellow followers is being tested. So these are, you may say that these are difficult times, but these are good times for leadership skills to develop and to nurture. And this is probably one of the best times to develop this kind of skills. The second attribute of Lord Vishnu is called Bhujaga Shayanam. Bhujaga Shayanam means Bhujaga is a snake or a serpent. Shayana is lying down or resting or sleeping on the snake or the serpent. As you know, this serpent is Adisheshanaga, and on his bed he lies down in his Vaikuntha. Right? So how can a leader learn from this attribute of Bhujaga Shayanam. Okay, so snake for us, for humans, it means, fear. It means an enemy. It means that it's going to attack me and it's going to bite me. So we look at the snake as an enemy. But the quality that we need to develop is how to confront with our enemies. Enemies in today's world would essentially mean competitors. They're not enemies, but this is the kind of bhavana or the feeling that we have in our mind. Actually, with the competitors and with our fellow people, how we should live with them, how we should trust them, how we should work with them, and how we can become fearless. That is what this attribute teaches us. So essentially, this attribute teaches us how to confront and how to engage with problems, with the problem solving skills as we discussed earlier, how we can be more focused on solutions, how we can go into the root cause analysis, how we can dispassionately evaluate the situation without getting involved passionately with passion or with emotions into a situation. It's very important that the leader must be dispassionate. Dispassionate means he doesn't take sides. He doesn't start judging people, doesn't start taking sides based on his previous likes and dislikes with individual persons or with individual people. So that is how a leader can confront and engage with problems and can find solutions. So to find a solution to a problem, it needs a courage and patience. These may sound contradictory because courage means that you want to get a solution immediately. But sometimes, you have to wait to find a solution in the situation. You don't have to rush in. It depends on the situation, what is the urgency of finding the solution. If you can wait, you can definitely, in a complex situation, you can take some time to think, to evolve a consensus, an idea in the team before you take a particular decision. And there'll be many, many obstacles in the life of a leader. And these obstacles you can create by, visualizing a hurdle race. So for example, everybody of you must have seen in Olympics, we have this hurdle race where at every 100 meters there is a hurdle and the sprinter has to, jump over the hurdle. Similarly, whenever there is a hurdle in life, we should think of this, try and get over the hurdle rather than stopping at that hurdle saying that, oh, this is a hurdle, I can't go ahead. You have to just jump over it, try and jump over it. Similarly, if somebody asks you to go to another room to get something, the door is closed, what is your instinctive reaction? You open the door and go into that room. So essentially it's like that. In life, when obstacles come up in our life, we should just try and open the door. We just try and, get over the hurdle and get to the finishing line. So we should look for different options, and this is how we should, engage with problem solving. This is what we learn from the leadership skills, that we should look for options, we should think and evolve and find the best solution suited in that given situation. There may be many options, but if you look for it, then we will find many options. If you don't think, then we'll think that this is the only solution. But we should always ask ourselves the right question, that is there any other option? Is there a better option? What are the options? Then you put all the 3 options on your table and then you decide with your team, sit, think about the pros and cons of each option, what could happen in the short term, in the long term. So all this thinking, manomanthana, everything has to go in, and only then you arrive at a decision. Because once you take a decision, then you have to stick to that decision. You can't keep changing the decision. So before taking the decision, the leader must think 10 times, but after he takes a decision, he has to go ahead and he has to implement it the best possible way. At the same time, it's very important that the leader must not take many impulsive decisions, because these are the ones that he will repent for in the future. The third attribute in the first shloka is Padmanabham. So Padmanabha is the lotus navel. As you saw, Lord Vishnu from the navel, from the navel there is a lotus, and from the lotus Brahmaji creates the universe. So basically, this lotus and the umbilicus and Padmanabha, or the lotus navel, it's a sign of creativity. How the universe is created. And this attribute teaches a leader how to become creative. And it is said that abdomen is the creative brain of the human body, because everything arose from the navel, the umbilicus, the entire universe. So how can a leader, he can learn, or he can ascribe, or he can, use these leadership qualities to become more effective and successful? So the heart of modern leadership is creative thinking and creative solutions, because in today's world, problems are absolutely new. They are different. Sometimes they have never come to us. And for these kind of problems, the solutions have to also be very different and creative. You can't use the same set of solutions that you use for old problems to treat the new problems or solve the new problems. That is not going to work out. So we all have to be very, very creative. And this time of this crisis has taught all of us how to become creative in our thinking, in our approach. So we have to find creative solutions to our new existing problems. If you see the today's world, the best organizations in the world today, like Google, Microsoft, Facebook, all these are the most creative organizations in the world. They have created products which were not existent at one point of time, and that's why they are such wonderful organizations to work in, and they are the world's one of the finest and the best organizations today, because only one attribute, and that is creativity. So this itself tells us how important it become creative. Only creative people and creative organizations will survive in the future, because it's not just a question of being efficient or question of doing our best. It's a question today even of survival of organizations. And for organizations to survive in this difficult times, every organization must become creative. They have to think how they can become lean. They have to look at their cost controls. They have to see their inventories. They have to see their supply chains. They have to look for newer options or opportunities, like digital alternatives are available. There are several newer ways of doing businesses are available, and the old or the traditional ways of doing business has become disrupted in the current environment. And so we have to think creative, and only with creativity we can survive and we can progress. So this is very, very important. The next attribute is Suresham. Suresham means Sura Isha, Lord of the Devas, right? So essentially, Lord Vishnu is the leader of the leaders, or Lord of the Devas. So essentially, it is that the leader must become a leader of the ministers, or leader of the thinkers or intellectuals. So how can a leader become leader of the classes, or intelligentsia, or his able ministers? This is how we can become, the leader can become a leader of the classes. He has to take the team into his, into his trust. He has to encourage people to dissent, encourage people to have dialogue, and try to, have a debate on several issues. Because this debate or dissent or dialogue brings out the best. It's called Manomanthana, or it can be also called some kind of some manthana, or some this can bring out the best. As you know, the Samudra Manthana brought out the best things after so much of manthana. So with this kind of manthan, you can bring out the best solution. And this likes to be, he likes to be challenged by the opposition, and takes others into account before he arrives at the decision. So decision making is more broad-based, more team-based. He thinks, he gets everybody to opine, and then he finally takes a decision. So that is the kind of a nature of a true leader. He's decisive. It's not that he keeps on avoiding the decision. He keeps on discussing, he keeps on dissenting, he hears dialogues, but then at some point of time he has to take a decision. But this decision-making skill is a vital attribute of a leader, and that creates a difference between a leader and a follower. So this is very important. The clarity of the goal, the circumstances that he or she is in that situation is very, very important while we're taking the decision. So while taking any decision, the leader must think about the goal that he has to reach. Whether this decision is going to enable me to reach that goal. If I've decided that these are my goals, then whether this decision is going to take me to that goal or not, he should constantly have this in his mind. And you should also look at the circumstances. It's not that every time every decision will reach you to the or lead you to nearer to your goal. It's not possible. Sometimes you have to see the local circumstances, that point of time, those situations, and then one has to take the decision. The next attribute is called Vishwadharam. Vishwadharam means the support of the universe. Lord Vishnu is the foundation of the universe, right? Similarly, a leader is a foundation of the organization. He is like a pivot. He should remain stable when everything else in the organization keeps moving. He has to be kind of a foundation, and he has to have that stability. He has to have that fundamentally, that strength to remain stable in spite of the worst of situations. And at the same time, he should maintain the culture of the organization. Every organization or every country has its own culture. And to maintain this culture of the organization or of the country, the leader must make attempts to make sure that this remains in the organization or in the country. Should also make sure that the politics is not getting too much interfering in the work. Every organization, every country has its own politics. There are people who have different points of view. They all get together, they create their own parties, and then they keep fighting. As you see on all the TV debates every day, you will see what is this politics. Everything there are two parties, they keep fighting, they keep debating, right? So this, in an organization, one should try and see that this politics is kept at distance as much as possible. I mean, you can't avoid it completely, because these are all human beings. They all have their own points of view. They all have very strong perceptions. They have very strong convictions, and they all get together. So all these are human, dimensions. I mean, you can't completely avoid them. But at the same time, the leader, if he is just and if he is, very aware, he has open eyes, he sees what is happening in the organization, then he can keep this politics at a distance. Because politics sometimes creates a lot of disrepute for the organization, because it creates internal bickering. The organization culture also gets affected, and this does not create a progressive environment in the organization. So another reason for the leader is that he must create harmony amongst the staff, which is very important to create a good harmony. There are several ways that he can do it. He can have, staff welfare meetings, some get-togethers, moral boosting endeavors, some, gifts, some prizes, some competition, some games. So a lot of things can be done by the leader to make sure that the staff works in harmony with each other. So this is very essential in today's organizations. And he should be impartial in his conduct. That is very important. Leader should never take sides. You should always remember that, when a game of badminton or tennis is going on, what does the judge do? He sits in between and he sees what is the right and what is the wrong. That is what the leader has to do. A leader cannot take side of one person or the other party. That is not the job of the leader. Leader must be very impartial in his conduct. He should be very objective in his assessment. Whenever he looks at the data, whenever he looks at the situation of the company or of the organization, then he should have very, very objective. They should not be subjective, like I feel that they should be like this. Yes, feelings and sixth sense is important, but in today's world, it is the data, it is the results, the analytics that drives the decision making. So in today's world, you can't have subjective decision making. A leader has to be very objective. He should keep a track of the data. He should do good analytics of the data, and then he can take the decisions. And a leader should not have very strong likes and dislikes, because if he has very strong likes and dislikes about people, about procedures, about products, or about in his organization, then these are some groups, then these are the things that create the problems in the culture, in the politics, in the harmony amongst the staff. Because that perception is also not a good perception to have, that there are some people who are quite close to the boss and there are some people who are not very close to the boss. So this kind of perception, yes, there is a lot of perception in many organizations like this, but this should not develop as far as possible. One should try and avoid this. So leader has to be very aware how he conducts himself or herself in the organization with different people. Gagana Sadrisham. So Gagana is sky and Sadrisha is resembling the sky. So Lord Vishnu, as you know, is boundless, is infinite, like the sky, right? He's very large-hearted, like the sky or the space. So how does a leader develop this quality or this attribute? Gagana Sadrisham. So leader should have a very grand vision. You know, sky is the limit, as we commonly say. So our vision that we see, that we portray for ourselves, that we give to our staff, our employees, must be a kind of a grand vision so that the people get stimulated. So that's very important. And as you know, our current Prime Minister gives this kind of a grand vision of a 5 trillion economy. That is what we want to become. So these are grand vision that the leader gives to the people so that the people get inspired. Similarly, as you know, Kennedy gave a vision in 1967 that US will reach a moon in 2 years' time. So this is a kind of a grand vision so that everybody gets stimulated, they get aroused, they want to do something, they want to contribute to something. So a grand vision is a very important part of leadership. Just like a sky is so pure and non-corrupt, the leader must have an impeccable integrity. In today's world, there is nothing which is more important for an organization than impeccable integrity for leadership, because there are a lot of organizational frauds and other things that are happening. The legal compliances have become so strong, and the legal framework has strengthened so much that people have to have complete integrity and have to work with their character ethics. So with this, this is a very, very important, and this is probably, in my opinion, the most important attribute of a leader. Even if his lesser efficiency can be pardonable, but his integrity, if it is less than 100%, that is not pardonable for any leader. So this kind of leadership is important. The leader must be large-hearted, like a Gagana Sadrisham. He should be large-hearted to his employees, his clients, and try and give as much as he can to fulfill the wishes and desires of his clients, make them happy. Employees and clients both make them happy. And a leader, like a Gagana, should be all-inclusive. So, like a sky, it doesn't impartial. It is impartial. It doesn't give partiality to anyone. And a leader should be all-inclusive, meaning anybody from that organization can go and speak to that leader. So it does not create politics, or it doesn't create a divide and rule policy. A lot of people, leaders work with this policy. They would try, there is a strong department. They'll try to break the department into 2 different leadership within the department and try to get some, information from one part and some information from the other part. But this, on the long term, is not a good idea. This divide and rule policy is not a good idea. It's a good idea to everybody unites and works like one team. If everybody works like one team, it is definitely much more powerful concept. So a leader thinks of the long-term goals and the growth. Just like a sky, the vastness, he thinks of making the organization a vast organization by growing. So all his thinking, all his attitudes, all his passions, all his thoughts, his actions, that are towards the growth of the organization. And this growth is not just a short-term growth, but his one eye should always be on a long-term growth. So because there are 2 eyes, one eye can be on the short-term problems, the other eye could always be on a long-term growth of the organization. And this, in my opinion, is an ideal leader, that he always thinks of a long-term. At the same time, he thinks of the local short-term situation, but then he knows that in 5 years' time or in 10 years' time, where do I want to take this organization or this country? So this kind of long-term thinking, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, is something that only few leaders can achieve. Most of the leaders are just working in their, shallow confines and trying to, like in a pond, like a frog in the pond, they're just trying to get things managed and get the work done. But a true leader is somebody who has this long-term vision of the growth of the organization. And to achieve this, he gives direction. He makes sure that the organization doesn't have too many risks involved. So he does the risk analysis of the organization, and then he diversifies the risk. He says that, okay, this product, this person, this areas, this compliances, these are the problems which are giving us a lot of risk. So let us diversify, let us, dilute this risk. Let us dilute this risk. And so that is how the leader thinks. Megha Varnam. Megha Varna is like a color of the cloud. So who has the color of the cloud? And as you know, the clouds that bring rain, especially the dark clouds, Megha Varna. The dark clouds bring rain, and rain is same for everyone. It does not discriminate. And rain gives nutrition, nourishment, because खेतों में फसल उगती है, and then you get the food, everybody gets the nutrition. So that is what rain does. So that is what is Megha Varnam. And how can a leader become Megha Varnam? He does not discriminate. That is the most important. As the rain does not discriminate, the leader also does not discriminate between his or her employees. Is empathic and compassionate. Rain is so compassionate. Just by compassion, it gives, rainfall gives us all the nutrition. And the same way, the leader must have a lot of compassion. Like the rain clouds, he should be compassionate. He should give as much as he can. And it should be same, it should be justice for all. There should not be any discrimination, and he should remain in equipoise and in balance. He or she should not get tilted. The balance should not be tilted by, daily situations. So that equipoise or that balance must be maintained. Shubhangam. Shubhangam is a splendid, auspicious body or a limb. Anga is a limb. Right? So Lord Vishnu has a very beautiful and a very auspicious body. So from this, what a leader can learn. Shubhangam means that leader must have a very pleasant personality. His personality itself should inspire a lot of happiness, peace, and confidence in the other people. So that kind of personality he should have. He should be smiling. He should have a very Saumya kind of a personality which gives peace to others. And that comes out of simplicity of a leadership. If he speaks something else, he thinks something else, if there is a duplicity in the mind or in the personality, then it will not be simplicity and it will not come out as a pleasant personality. At the same time, a leader should be ethical, he should have moral values of honesty, integrity, and he should be accountable for whatever he does or anybody else does in the organization. As a leader, he has to take the responsibility, accept the responsibility. It's very easy to blame people for not doing some or the other job. It's a very easy, it's called creating a scapegoat out of somebody. So that's a very easy job, and many leaders try and indulge in this very kind of a straightforward, simple thing that they do, which does not help the organization. In actually, what helps the organization is to accept the responsibility for the problems or issues, and then getting the work done from your employees is the best way to accept it. And for this, the leader has to be aware about his own self, how his or her is thinking, his thoughts, your ideas, your actions. You must be very aware about what we are doing. Only then we can become accountable. Only then we can not blame people. Only then we can have an impeccable integrity, honesty, and we can have simplicity and a pleasant personality. And then a leader must, to remain Shubha, he has to renew his energies. He has to introspect and get the Shubha Anga, means the Sattvic Anga, or the good energies. He should get imbibe good, learn new things. He should read well. He should listen to good lectures. He should read autobiographies. He should lead, completely. He should be in sync with the current situation. He should keep in pace with what is happening, because in today's world things are changing. There is a lot of influence you see of the government in the day-to-day business, and to make sure that a company or an organization is compliant, to make sure that we follow all the rules. One has to be very aware. We have to keep up to date and keep on track. So all this is part of the leadership. So we come to the first stanza has been completed up to Shubhangama. We will again recite this prayer of Lord Vishnu, and then we will go to the next stanza. The first stanza gave us 8 attributes, and the next stanza will give us 6 other different attributes of a good leader. So let's recite this again. Shantakaram Bhujagashayanam Padmanabham Suresham Vishwadharam Gagana Sadrisham Meghavarnam Shubhangam Lakshmi Kantam Kamalanayanam Yogi Bhirdhyana Gamyam Vande Vishnu Avabhayaharam Sarvalokaikkanatham. Stanza of the shloka. Lakshmi Kantam. Lakshmi Kantam is Lord Vishnu is the beloved husband of Devi Lakshmi, right? And Devi Lakshmi, as you know, is the goddess of wealth. So Lakshmi Kanta, Lakshmi likes to come to Vishnu because Lakshmi feels very safe with Vishnuji. So similarly, how a leader can be Lakshmi Kantam? So a leader must use his money very wisely, his Lakshmi, quite wisely, because he should not be a spendthrift, neither he should be a miser. So that is what is an appropriate use of money. So he must think before he's spending money. He should think of the return on investment. He should think and the cash flows. He should think on his balance sheets. He should think of his EBITDA. He should think of the short-term benefits. He should think of the long-term goals, benefits. He should think of the branding part. How the company can market this. If he's going to spend something on a technology or a product. So all this thinking must go before the leader decides to spend, especially large amount of money. I'm not talking about the routine spends or the the maintenance spends, the routine spends, but this is like a capital expenditure. And the leader is a good leader is one who modernizes the infrastructure, modernizes the environment, and keeps up to date. In today's era, it's very important to have good technology with you, the best or the cutting edge technology that helps you to become more efficient, that helps you to cut the errors or minimize the errors, that gives you a better quality of the output of the final product, may it be a service or a product. But this kind of technologies which are currently available should be used more and more often. It could be electronics, it could be IT, it could be digital technologies, it could be artificial intelligence, it could be products, it could be anything. But one should try and make your job much more efficient, more effective, and less prone to errors. So that should be the goal of a leader. Again, being Lakshmi Kantam means the leader must utilize all the resources that he or she has adequately. If some of the resource is not adequately utilized, the leader must know that this is the resource that I need to bring into focus, must use it more often. I have so much of resources, but why this is not being utilized? He has to give a lot of thought, and then he has to formulate a plan of the adequate utilization of the resources. Because this is something which is very, very important in today's world, because each resource is so valuable, it is so costly, that it is very, very important to adequately use the resource. Just to give you an example, to create one hospital bed today in any part of the country in India, it will cost, depending on what kind of city you are in, tier 3, tier 2 or tier 1, it will cost anywhere between 60 lakhs to 1 crore. That is the cost of creating one patient bed. I'm just giving you one example of a resource. So if some of the beds are lying vacant in the organization, then it's a huge waste of resource. And it's the responsibility of the leader to make sure that he tries to see that there is a better utilization of all the resources. I'm just talking of patient bed. There could be several other resources in the organization. It could be so many things, but I'm just giving you an example that how costly or how valuable a resource is today. A leader should love everyone in the organization. As you already said, keep the staff happy, keep them energized, keep the spirits up. Even in difficult times, they should all feel quite energized. So some or the other visual management concepts must be used. Visual management concept where you can have kind of festivals, you can have kind of slogans, you can have which are visually created in the organization. So a lot of inspirational things go into the organization which can inspire the staff. Kamala Nayanam. Kamala Nayanam is lotus eyes. As you know, Lord Vishnu has beautiful lotus eyes, Similarly, a leader, he should have eyes which can see through a person. It's very important that we need to understand a person. We need to get, we should not just get impressed by talks, because a lot of people, they would just, speak very flowery language. We should not try and get impressed by the talks that a person is doing. So one has to see the substance of the person, their, the education, his culture, his, his thoughts, his and then try to assess that person. So we should judge the intentions of the person as a whole, rather than just seeing the outer appearance, but trying to see what is the person made up of, what kind of substance that person is made up of. And for this, a leader should also create or nurture kind of a sixth sense about people. There are some people for whom this comes very naturally from within. For some people, they have to create this sense. They don't have this sixth sense. What is called as a sixth sense means that, you have that intuitive sense, that you can feel the other person's mind or know that kind of what kind of person the other person is. I'm not saying that we should use it very often, because in today's world, as I said, we should become objective rather than become subjective. But yes, sometimes the sixth sense helps us to avoid disasters also. A leader should not be judgmental. He should see the person from the entirety, like a Kamala Nayanam, like lotus eyes, and he should get his data and get his information from various sources. He should not just rely on one source for the information. So for any event, he should get his information from various sources, and then he can assess, because from one source of information, the information is likely to be, kind of biased information. And that's why if the leader wants to remain unbiased, he should get information from several different people regarding one particular area, and then he can make his decision better. Especially the contra part or the contralateral view, also he should try and get from the other part or the other area. So with this, he can become a good decision maker. He can be a good and able communicator. So in today's world, communication is very, very important. He has to be first a good listener to become a good communicator. So if you want to become a good communicator, the first skill that we have to learn is to be a good listener. We have to listen to what people are saying, try to see what their intentions are behind the words that they speak. Sometimes, in the heat of the moment, the words may be very different. Sometimes they may be harsh, but one needs to see what the person is trying to say behind those harsh words. We should not just speak the words and say that how can you use such word, this, that, other. Try and see the situation, try and see the person's mind. So a leader has to develop a lot of, intuitive thinking, a lot of awareness, and have to have a lot of patience and persistence to develop good communication skills. Yogi bir dhyan gamyam. So this means yogi is a sage. Yogi bihi, by the sages, dhyana, meditation, gamya means attainable. So it means that Lord Vishnu is attainable to the yogis by meditation. That is what it means. He is the person who can be attained by the yogis with the help of meditation, by chintana. So how can a leader become like a yogi? So essentially, a yogi is a person who is a respectable person. He is respected by one and all, even the intellectuals. As you know, in our ancient history, the sage or the guru had the highest position in the society. The king used to bow down to the guru, and king used to, in times of crisis, the king would go to a guru to get some wisdom, words of wisdom. So this was the stage of the gurus. They are respected by one and all intellectuals, even the classes and the masses. So they all respect the sages or the yogis. So leader also similarly should be one who is respected by one and all in the organization. May it be the classes means the intellectual part of the organization, or masses. Masses means the workers or the people who are at the bottom of the pyramid in the organization. So a respect from any colleague in the organization cannot be earned or commanded. It should be earned and it should be commanded. It can never be demanded. The leader has to work hard to develop a bond of trust between his team, and then he has to conduct in a way that people start respecting the leader. So one can never say that, oh, मैं आया मेरे को ये खड़े नहीं हुए, मेरे को respect नहीं किया. That is not the way a leader can command or demand a respect. It should be earned. It should be he should conduct in such a way that the people give respect to him. And knowledge and wisdom are the most important things that we should aim for. And this is also what the leader should aim for. All leaders should aim for knowledge and wisdom. And this is something even in our ancient Indian scriptures, the knowledge and wisdom is as the highest regard or the highest respect. That is our ancient parampara. And the same parampara can hold true in any organization or in any country. So today, in today's world, all our decision making has to be guided by knowledge and wisdom. So this is something that all leaders should try to attain. So that is what the yogis attend, and that's what we should attend. At the same time, yogis are very humanitarian, they are very compassionate, and that is why they are respected. Similarly, a leader also has to have a lot of humane capabilities, capacities, or abilities, must have a lot of compassion for everyone in the organization, and he should lead from the front, not from behind. Means that he has to be with the team. He cannot just keep ordering the team that you go do this, that, other. I'm sitting here in my office. That's not the way, that's not the style of leadership that's going to be effective. A leader has to be on the in a Kaizen concept, it's called the Gemba. Gemba means the workplace. The leader must be at the workplace to solve disputes, solve resolutions, to see the problems of the workers, what they are facing, how these problems can be solved. So the leader has to kind of lead from the front. He cannot be leading from his office. That's not the place where the leadership develops. Yes, when he wants to look at the data, when he wants to analytics, when he wants to think, when he wants to discuss with his team, he has to go to his room and to his office and do that thinking. But when he wants to do the problem solving part, when he wants to connect with the employees, when he wants to boost the morale of his employees, when the leader wants to inspire the staff, he has to be at the workplace, and that is the best place that he can be. And finally, actions speak louder than words. A leader may say 1,000 words of inspiration, but his one action will ignite a lot of inspiration from his staff and his colleagues. So a leader should not just keep on speaking about the inspiration, about the vision, but he should try and make it actionable. He should try and put it into his actual work, and his work should actually speak for himself. And this is a beautiful message that Mahatma Gandhi, one of the most respected leader in the world around, he said that my life is my message. Such a profound statement. He didn't have to say anything. Only how he lived his life was actually a message for everyone what a leader should be and should actually be. So this is what a leader can become. Finally, Vande Vishnum. One day I praise, I worship Lord Vishnu. I worship Lord Vishnu, who is all pervading. So how a leader can be respected in the organization? The leader also has to have a lot of gratitude and reverence for his staff in the organization. Only if he has a gratitude and reverence for his staff, then only he will get the respect back in the organization. And this gratitude, like even for Lord Vishnu, we say that भगवान को बहुत कृपा है, बहुत कृपालु है, इतना कृपा करते हैं, इसलिए भगवान को सब पूछते हैं. That's why they get so much of respect, because they are doing so much of grace. Their grace is always on human beings. Similarly, a leader should always have a gratitude, always should say thanks. He should not feel demeaned by saying thanks to his subordinates, his followers for any point of time, and he must have a lot of reverence for, and should distribute all the rewards into the group. If there is a problem, there is a failure, he should be the first person who should accept the failure. But when there is a reward, when there is a wava, then he should try and distribute it into his team. He should give the credit more to the team rather than taking the credit. So he should be humble, he should be confident, he should look in charge of the situation. If the leader looks diffident, if anybody in the organization feels or in the country feels that the leader is not so confident, doesn't look in charge, his voice is the way he speaks, his demeanor, his personality is not that he's in charge, then they will not have respect in that leader. So at the same time, just boasting about your own self, what you are doing, and being egoistic or egocentric does not help. Some of the leaders that you see of the most powerful nations today, they are quite egocentric. They want to show how much they are doing. But this kind of egocentricity does not help. It's better to be humble and better to give credit to your team. That makes you a more able leader. At the same time, you can earn respect for everyone only if you have this compassion and empathy towards your fellow beings. You must have a lot of understanding. Everybody comes from very different backgrounds, from different backgrounds, their own family circumstances, their family issues also are brought into the workplaces, so this leader must be aware. He may not go into the details of his social or personal problems, but he should be aware that every employee that comes in the organization comes with a lot of kind of a baggage on his, and this baggage is something that doesn't go away, and that's why they have their own fears, their own reasons for not falling in line with the discipline of the organization sometimes, and that is something that the leader must understand. At the same time, the leader must be very determined. He should be dedicated and passionate about his work. Only if he has this passion towards his work, he can't be, a leader cannot say that I work to the time. My time is 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock, I'll come at 10 and I'll go at 5. So if he's working like this, all his other staff members are going to work at the time book. So the kind of passion that the leader has to exude is at every moment. So if the employees see this kind of a dedication, this passion, this determination in the leader, then they will be inspired. As I already said, actions will speak more than 1,000 words. At the same time, the discipline of the organization, personal discipline, punctuality in the meetings, punctuality in the method of working, punctuality in the respecting the time of the employees. Sometimes if we call our employees to meet and we make them sit down for such a long period of time, it shows a lot of disrespect for the time of the employees. So a leader must be aware about these kind of things. Finally, bhava bhaya haram. Bhava is this worldly existence, bhaya, fear, hara, taking away. So God is somebody who takes away, who removes the fear of the worldly existence. So this is what the Lord does to us. It takes this fear by giving us that eternal knowledge and tells us that this worldly existence is something that we should not fear about. And how can the leader learn from this attribute? He does not create fear. So a fear-based leadership, अगर आपने ये नहीं किया तो वो हो जाएगा, मैं ये कर दूंगा, आपको ये पनिशमेंट मिल जाएगी, आपको ये हो जाएगा, ये कर देंगे. So this kind of fear-based leadership, I think those days are gone. We cannot work by instigating or inspiring fear in the staff. That is not the way we can produce good results. Maybe in a short term it may work for 1 or 2 things, it will work, but then otherwise it will not be an ongoing process. Instead, the style of leadership should be more of inspiration-based leadership. It does not punish a person. It does not blame the person. He should look into the circumstances. He should understand, he or she as a leader must understand that humans can make mistakes. Even if I'm there in that situation today, maybe I could have made a mistake. So this understanding, this analysis of the circumstances, and then making decisions based on the circumstances. And of course, if somebody has made a mistake, a leader should be large-hearted enough to even forgive the person, that forgiveness, and give them a chance, especially when there is a benefit of doubt. When there is a doubtful situation where the evidence is not in favor of or against one of the employees, then this is a situation of doubt. The benefit of doubt must be given to the employee. One must not think that when in a doubtful situation the employee is at fault, try to blame them. So this kind of attributes does not befit a good leader. So a leader takes people into his confidence, and that's how he does not create fear. He does a lot of inspiration. So this is an inspirational based leadership rather than a fear based leadership. So fear based leadership is something like a dictatorial style. an inspirational based leadership is something like a democratic style of leadership. Of course, democracy doesn't mean that you keep discussing and then you don't take decisions. One has to take a decision, but dictatorial style of creating fear-based leadership is not a good, healthy style. Finally, Sarva Lokaikanatham, Sarva, all the lokas, world, Ekanatha, one Lord. The Lord Vishnu is one Lord of all the lokas. He is the Lord of the Lord. And this kind of a leader, he will be a leader of all. He will not be just a leader of masses, but even the leader of classes. Means that he will be the leader of the bottom of the pyramid, the workers, as well as he will be the leader of the intellectual class of the society. Because the society is made up of very, very different people. If you do something, for example, some leaders, they will do a lot for the masses just because they are interested in their vote bank politics, and then they will, so they will alienate away from the classes. So this kind of leadership is also not a good leadership. One should be a leader of all. One should be a Sarva Lokaikanatham, and all the colleagues should respect the leader. Even the clients, the vendors would respect those kind of leaders, whoever have come in contact with them. The leader himself or herself in personal life has a good strikes, a good work-life balance, so that he remains in peace with himself or herself, so that he can exude or radiate that peace that he has in the surroundings that he works in. So he leads by example, and this is how one can become a leader like Lord Vishnu. These are the best leadership skills that we can ascribe to. I don't think anywhere else such good qualities have ever been described, and this is something that we can learn from the Lord Almighty, how in spite of developing or creating this mammoth universe, we cannot imagine what kind of universe that has been created. Just to give you an example, the nearest star that is to us, to our Earth, what we see, is at least 4 light years away from us. 1 light year means 6 trillion miles. So the nearest star that we see is at least 25 trillion miles away from us. And when we see the light of that star, it takes at least 4 years for the star to travel for that light to travel to us from this distance. So what we are seeing the star is after 4 years, we are seeing that star over there at that place. Can you imagine this? And this is, I'm talking of the nearest star to the Earth. And so many other stars are much billions of miles beyond these stars. So this is what we are talking. I mean, the kind of what has been created, what is going on in this universe is something which is beyond the understanding of a normal human being like me. But at the same time, we must realize that if this intelligentsia has created this kind of universe and is maintaining it and still being relaxed, calm, and is able to manage and maintain this huge cosmos, then these are the attributes that we need to learn from this. So again, we pray and respect and give our obeisance and prayers to the Lord Mighty Vishnu. Shantakaram Bhujagashayanam Padmanabham Suresham Vishwadharam Gaganasadrasham Meghavarnam Shubhangam Lakshmi Kantam Kamalanayanam Yogi Birthyan Gamyam Vande Vishnu Avabhayaharam Sarvalokaikanakam. So thank you all very much for this